Stockpile Hobbies.
Welcome back to Stockpile Hobbies, everyone. Today we're going to start the process of fixing the track here. We're going to be running a power tap over to my custom adapter I made over here. And then we're going to do this kind of in two parts. The first part is, like I just mentioned, I'm going to fix the power issue on the back half of the track. And then the second part is to start replacing this inner part here that comes up from the corkscrew. I want to put high bank pieces of track in here and then run it through. The problem being is that part of the track is March-on, and the banks I have are Tyco. So I got to backfill all this track here with Tyco pieces and the corkscrew and move that track adapter that I have right here, because they're side by side. This one's going to probably be located back over to here. So first step is to run the power taps, fix the track, get everything working, and then work on improving some of the cornering abilities of the cars here on the track, get a little more speed out of them and less crashes. So let's go take a look at the track adapter I have, the gauge of wire, and how we're going to do this. To really be doing this for the Tyco cars that I run, I think the correct gauge I should be using is 16. I have 18 gauge. This is just two-strand or a two-paired speaker wire. And that's because of the amount of amp draws that the Tyco cars have. It's higher than the Thunderjets, it's higher than the X-Tractions. But, it's at full throttle. And on the track, you're not going full throttle the whole time. It's in short bursts. So the 18 gauge, I think it's going to handle the power just fine. I use it for my controller extensions. On the drag strip here, we're running 24, full force, or full power the whole way down. No problem. So, and it's not going to be that long. I'm probably going to have to run about maybe 6 feet to get to this track adapter here. So, as you see, this is one of my custom hack job track adapters I made. I took two pieces of track, one March-on, one Tyco, cut them in half. I used Dean connectors and I super glued them on, and some packaging tape. It stays together real nice. It's been working great. It's a nice transition, no problems. But when I did this, I attempted to transfer the power through the Dean's connectors, and I think the better way to do this is to run a power tap to the far side of the adapter, which would be the March-on in this case. Or, I'm sorry, it would be the Tyco side to power it on that side of the track. So, in the previous video, I had talked about removing my wire connections here and just running the power tap. I've decided I'm going to leave all this alone, and I'm just going to come in with the power taps and solder them onto the one side. So I'll still have the connection through, but I'm going to make sure that we're seeing the track die is on the part after the transition. So I'm going to run a power tap on the side after the transition over to here. And if we take a look at the jungle of wires under the track here, what we see are one laptop power supply, and I'll have this linked in the description. I have other videos on these. This lets me adjust the power voltage that we run, and we run 18 on the track volts. These white boxes here are just the LED remotes. So off the power supply here, there is a connection here, and this is what actually runs up to the track. And it would be this right here. So that's where I got to tap in. There's two wires, and they each go to one of the two rails on one lane. So this power supply is fully powering one side or one lane of track. There is another power supply over here running the second lane. And to show that, as you see, here is the one we just looked at, and there is the other. So each lane has independent power. This way, so if one car crashes, power is maintained consistent across both lanes. If you're running one power supply, you may notice that if one car crashes or one car stops, all the power goes to the other side of the track and usually causes the other car to crash. All right, so what I need is this guy right here. You see, this all is one piece, and we're going to pull this guy off. Here we go. So what's important is to look at the two wires. The top side here used to have the nipple on it that popped up. I cut it off to make it work with this track, but the one wire here is running one rail, and the other wire is running the other rail. So when I run the power tap, that has to maintain consistency. I got to run the same tap off the connection there, the red and white connector there. One side is doing one rail, one side is doing the other rail. So I got to make sure that when I tap it, I'm putting the right wire to the right rail, or the correct rail, I should say. Now luckily, this wire is coated, and I can see that there is one with a red stripe on it. And the red stripe is running the side that had the nipple on it. So I can trace that red wire all the way back to my connection here. There it is. I know that this wire has to go to the same rail on this track adapter as it does on the power input down there on the track. There is an easier way to do this, and that is to use another one of these. It would be somewhere in line, putting this in line in the track, taking another one of these connectors and just splicing it into this connection here. So basically I'd have another one of these coming off of here, and that would just go over and plug in to the track. However, because I'm running two power supplies, I would then need to modify this underneath the track, and you would also see another power tap sticking up on the track on the other side of the racetrack over there. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see this on the track with the power in it, which is why we're not going to do that. We are going to just run the wire underneath, and I'm just going to solder it in place that I already have the connections here, and it'll all be hidden. So this is the actual piece off of the track that we just looked at where I pulled this out of. There's the nipple slot, and you see that it's going into the top side. We can see I've modified this, and I have other videos out there how I modified this to work with two power supplies. But what we're trying to do is ensure that the red wire here going into the top post, which is right here, is powering this rail. That is the rail. I have my finger here. It is the inside rail of, we'll call it the right lane. So red wire is powering inside rail of right lane. So now I need to trace this rail all the way around my racetrack until I come to the point that I want to run the power supply or power tap. So I traced it across the racetrack. This would be the inside rail still coming down the back, which right where we are. This is the rail, and this is where I want to solder my point or my power tap to the track. What we're going to do is run the red wire, because that's on, I maintained consistency with red. Red was the top. This red wire, I'm going to run another wire from here to this side, right here, this post. So let's cut the red butt splice out. Like so. I'm going to restrip these wires. There's no problem with butt splicing it, but in that case, you just connect all three wires. I got my wire marked with the red here. I got the red wire from the adapter and the non-marked wire from the speaker cable. So basically all three wires I stripped are all put together right here. So my soldering iron is heating up to 325 degrees. I have some soldering flux here, and I'm just going to wipe the flux onto the copper wires. This will help the solder flow across the joint and easily solder together. I got some lead-free solder here, and all I'm going to do is put some solder onto the iron and then just rub it onto the joint, top and bottom. And now we test it. Alright, it looks good. I put a piece of heat shrink on first. You could use black electrical tape. And now I just need to heat shrink it on to the wire. You can use a lighter, you can use the soldering iron, and you just touch it to the heat shrink and it will start to constrict around the joint. over on the opposite side of my speaker wire, I said that the red wire, which in the speaker wire case is the one that is not marked because the white one is white, we're going to solder now the red wire, red connection to this joint right here. Alright, so I'm going to add some flux to the wire, add just a little bit to what's already there. What we're going to do is I'm going to coat the wire first with some solder. I'm going to tin it, as it's known. There we go. And now I'm just going to sandwich it together, and it should just hopefully be happy and all connect. Alright, so there's our red wire power tap. I'm trying to drive and talk, and I'm just concentrating on driving here. I'm not experiencing any loss of power here. I've maintained my finger consistent. The car is going, looks like the same speed about all the way around the entire track. It gets a little slow there, but it's getting through it. I think that did the trick. I'm gonna give it a lot of juice now. Yeah, I mean it's flying. It drives like a real viper, just fishtails everywhere. Alright, let's try a different car. Yeah, I got tons of power through there as I manipulate the throttle here. Yeah, you can definitely kill yourself in those figure eights now. I think that did it. I'm going to do the same thing for the other side now. The other lane, I should say. So as you see, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little slice into the tarp here and run it straight down so you won't see the wire coming out. But this was, like I said, it was speaker wire. It was 2 pair. I totally removed the white striped wire from it. I am now going to use that other wire to do this lane, just one rail again, that lines up with the top post. Let's go over to the bench and I'll explain it real quick. That does the one lane. And now we're going to do the second lane. And looking at we're using a Tyco one here, but the same principle. As you see, the red post that comes in, the nipple side, which is right here, went to the inside lane of the rail, which is where I did my tap here. And it also goes to the other lane, far side rail, which is going to be right here. Once again, this is the other power supply. Again, red wire. Removing my connection. Strip the wires. You want a little extra than normal, like I said, because you're going to be wrapping wires around each other as you solder, or to solder. It makes it easier to do the wrapping. Here we go, that's a good amount. There's the red. The other wire. Alright, so I have my heat shrink on. I've connected all 3 wires to a joint here. I'm putting on some flux. I'm going to add some solder to my iron now and dab it on. More like wipe it on. Again, you can use butt splices or whatever way you want to connect these. You don't have to solder them. Test the joint. It's good, not coming apart. Overlay the heat shrink. And shrink it. There's our power tap, and now the other side of this speaker wire. Just take a little off. There we go. Add some flux. Tin the wire. We're going to solder it to the outside rail here. Be careful not to overheat it and melt the track. There we go. There's our second tap. Alright, so now to hide all this, the shelving I have has slots in it, holes, every couple feet, and it feels like there's one right here for the wires to go down. So I'm just going to take my X-Acto knife here and make a slice. There we go. And that's where I can feed the wires down through first. So I'm going to do that now. And now we feed that through. And I'll be able to pull this through from the underside of the shelving. Just be gentle with your connections. You don't want to break anything, pull anything apart. Push from the top, pull from the bottom. And to not confuse myself, I did mark one of the ends so I know which power supply or which rail lane this needs to go into versus the other one. All right, here's our wires. Connect our track. There we go. And I'll reconnect my guardrails here. Make everything nice and neat looking. Once again. Alright, we got everything plugged in. I didn't hear any sparks go off. Let's try the other lane now. The car right here. My controller. Try to get everything in shot. Looking good. I haven't run this lane, so it hasn't been warmed up. But keeping my finger in one spot. Car is staying consistent. It's got a lot of speed. I think it's a success. I think we fixed our power problems, which means we can now rerun the top 10 list for the track. But before we do that, I'm going to start replacing track here now and come up through here and put in the Tyco pieces and move my other adapter back further. So we'll be doing that in the next video, I think, and then we'll rerun the top 10 list. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you out. If you have any questions about running the power tap, please hit me up in the comments. Please give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and keep having fun, everyone. Oh yeah, don't forget to subscribe too. Tell others to subscribe, please.